So, welcome everyone to this event today. It's day 3 of Mental Health Awareness Week, and the theme this year is on loneliness. And each day from Monday through to tomorrow, Thursday, we're hosting a series of talks and events with different speakers from different organizations and groups and individuals to help share about raising the awareness on mental health as well as on loneliness. And people have been sharing, their personal stories and journeys, and gaining insights from that. So that's what we'll be doing through this week and today. So just a short introduction. My name is Shane Shah. I'm a happiness coach, speaker, and trainer. And through Happy Life Habits, positively impacting happiness and well-being levels. And the question I like to ask everyone when we have our sessions is this question. So use the scale of 0 to 10, but not using the number 7, but you're allowed to use fractions and decimals right now, just on that scale. See where you are, and if you're happy to drop it in the chat, please do so. And if you don't want to put it in the chat, that's fine, but just see for yourself where you are on your scale. And a reminder for everyone, your scale is unique to you. It's different from everyone else's. Someone's 8 might be someone else's 6, but the purpose here is just for you to get a checkpoint of where you are right now, how you're feeling. That's the purpose. And there's no judgments, no comparing. Anupa, you're not allowed to use 7, so I'm going to ask you to commit to go higher or lower on that. Great. So, yep, terrific. Thank you for those sharing. And the thing here, and the key, aspect with this is, whatever your number is, it's fine. And the purpose of this exercise is you become aware of what you're feeling. Then you have the ability of, with that awareness, choice. And if it's a number that you want to raise higher, then you can take action. And that action may be some of the things we're sharing today, and some of it might be other practices and things which give you joy and which help lift you up, whether it be playing music or calling a friend or going for a walk or petting your favorite animal. So all of those things are things we can invoke to increase our level. But the main purpose is awareness, choice, and then action. So as I mentioned, it's a series of events we're doing. And these events are brought to you by a number of individuals, organizations, and groups. And some of them are physical groups, some of them are online groups. And I'll just quickly highlight who our team are in bringing this to you. So there is the Charity Mind in Enfield and Barnet. There is Authentic Responses. There is Oshawa Connect, Sonal Dave. She's with us today and is our key speaker today. Om Consultancy, Manish Gohel, and the groups he looks after on Facebook, such as Asian Parent Group and Business Club. There's Young Janes, and we're fortunately have some sponsorship from Balance Consultancy to allow us to put these events on. So really huge thank you to all of these groups and organizations in being part of Mental Health Awareness Week, and also to all the speakers who've taken part during this week, and all of you who've been attending, so much appreciated. And so a very quick definition which we've been sharing during this week. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, has described and defined mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So there's quite a lot of different aspects in there, but the one that we're going to focus on today is this normal stresses of life. And when those stresses are not normal, then we can suffer from various mental health challenges. That's what we'll be exploring today. Another definition is, it's mental health is, the ability to think, feel, and react in a way that you need and you want. And it can be on a scale where you could have good mental health or not so good mental health, and you can be anywhere on that scale at different times. And we will be along that scale at different times, sometimes with high, sometimes with low, but it's just being aware that there is a scale and you can progress up and down it. And any condition that disrupts an individual's everyday of life, with that affects their mood, their thinking and behavior, is something that can have an impact on mental health. And again, the theme today of stress and anxiety is one of these disruptors. So on Monday, we had a panel discussion and we discussed community and connection and some real open, courageous, honest sharings with them by individuals, as well as sharing how communities have helped them. And then yesterday, on Tuesday, we had a conversation on mental health and loneliness, what causes these various issues of mental health and loneliness. We looked at those, and we looked at ways of coping with these, and building social networks, social connections, and having people you can rely on for moral support, for emotional support, and for practical support. So those were the things shared there. Both of those, as well as today's recording and tomorrow's recording, will be put onto the Happy Life Habits website and shared in social media. So if you have missed it, or if you want to recap on it, they will be available to you. So I will do a proper introduction on today's session in a moment. And as I said, it's stress and anxiety, specifically in the workplace, and how to offer support. And that's what we'll be exploring today. And tomorrow, it's on suicide prevention. And Priya Shah from Authentic Responses will be joining us. She helps organizations who are, like the Samaritans and other crisis handling charities and organizations who help people who need help, helps their staff with being able to deal with these challenges and to work those helplines effectively. So she offers training on that, and suicide prevention is what she'll be sharing with us, which I think is a really useful and important one for us to be aware of, with this whole aspect of mental health, loneliness, depression, and suicide, all very closely connected. So a very quick introduction to what stress is. We all suffer from stress in some manner or another. Stress is not necessarily bad. It's the body's way of protecting us. It's there to warn us that something might be threatening us, and it's what then the body does to help us deal with that threat. And it releases stress chemicals, so adrenaline and cortisol, which make our body ready to either fight or to run or to freeze. So those are the things that happen. And through that, various changes happen in both our mood as well as in our behavior as these chemicals come through and as we feel the fear or the threat. So those are the things that can happen. But as I mentioned, it's not, we often just think of stress as something bad. It's not, it's the body's warning mechanism. It's its way of protecting us. And what we've got to learn to do is to cope with that stress and manage that stress. This I shared during this week, and it's about the happy chemicals. And each of these happy chemicals has a particular function in the body. And these you may have heard of. So there's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And when these are low, we can feel depression, we can feel loneliness, we can feel anxiety, we can feel stress, we can feel fear. So these are some of the things that we will be talking about today, but it's being aware that these can be low when the happy chemicals are low and the stress chemicals are higher. But there are things we can do, as mentioned on that bottom line, which can help us boost the happy chemicals and to try and alleviate some of these feelings that we have when we are on a lower scale. So today we are joined by my friend Sonal Dave. She is a celebrant, a Toastmaster. She's a magistrate. She's a public speaker trainer, helping people with their public speaking and build their confidence. And that's children as well as adults. And she's very much involved in various different community work, and a musician and a singer as well. So many talents. She will share some of her experience with us today. And those of you who may remember, we had an Inspiration Point podcast with Sonal last year that's available on the Happy Life Habits website if you want to hear more of her journey and some of her challenges in depth as well, to support today's evening. So I will stop my screen share. And Sonal, a really good warm welcome to you. And Sonal has said that if you want to keep your videos on, that's fine. And she will be asking some questions and encouraging some conversation. So if the cameras are on, it'll help with that flow well. So Sonal, warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us and being part of supporting Mental Health Awareness Week.
Thank you so much, Shailin, and I'm really excited to be here today. And the reason I'm excited to be here today is because this is a topic that is really dear to my heart. Because for me, stress and anxiety has been with me from birth, and right through to who I am today in different areas of my life. So I thought there's some people here today who don't know me, who've never met me before. So I'm just going to start by just giving you a little rundown of who is Sonal. So, who am I? I was born in Uganda and I was diagnosed with congenital hip dysplasia as a baby. I came to the UK as a young child for treatment, and then Idi Amin decided that he didn't want me back. That's my version of the story. I was a child performer with the English National Opera and Saddle as well, so that tells you I was an extrovert. I've had three car accidents in my life. All of them are obviously not my fault, but they have left me with lifelong injuries and chronic pain. I've had a number of not so nice boyfriends along the way during my journey in life, and you'll be pleased to know they're no longer part of my life. I've moved home at least 7 times so far since I left the family home. I joined the civil service in 1992 on a 3 month casual basis, and 22 plus years later, I left after rising from admin officer to deputy director. And I'm going to come back to this particular part of my life because it was a big turning point for a number of reasons. In 2004, I became a magistrate and I still sit today, so that's some 18 years on. And in 2012, I lost my mum to a major cardiac arrest a day before her 70th birthday. I finally got married in 2013 to Danny, who's on here today, and my dad and my brother are very thankful to him. In 2018, I became a Toastmaster, Celebrant, and a public speaking expert. And that is now my passion for life, doing what I actually enjoy, helping people, individuals, couples, families have the day of choice they want. Shailene mentioned it a little bit, but I am also a singer and a little bit of an actress, and I've been fortunate to be in a number of publications on radio and on TV. So, through all of this that's happened to me from birth, I've had a support system around me, and that support system has been my dad, my brother, Danny. Andrea is on here. There's a couple of other friends, my GP, my specialist, my physios, my CBT people, and not forgetting those of you that have joined me today. I now put you in as part of my friend circle. So I live with disability, both physical and hidden, as well as other medical issues and chronic pain on a day to day basis. So for me, stress and anxiety is just part of who I am. So the reason I'm really happy to be here talking to you all about this is because people are scared, people are nervous, people think it's wrong, and that people will not like it if you say, I'm stressed or I've got anxiety. It's almost like there's a barrier there. And from my experience, it's a barrier that's very much more with men, but it is starting to slowly come down. And for some women, the barrier is still there because they don't want to feel like somebody's going to say you failed. But actually, if you're seeking help because you're feeling stressed or anxious, it's actually a good thing rather than keeping it in, making it worse, making it feel awful, making you not want to do things. That's when it becomes really bad. And we don't want to be bad. So I'm just going to share my screen. and just want to share something with you. She says if she can find the right one. Right, I know why. It's because I've got too many things open. So I'm just going to close these. Forgive me whilst I close these. And then hopefully I should be able to go back and open it. She says, dum dum dum. Why is it not opening? Have I been given sharing thing, Shaylin?
Yep, yep. You've got co-host.
Okay, let me try that again. There we go. It's open now. So Shaylin started to talk about this and earlier about the different definitions. And the reason why I wanted to go through these definitions in a bit more detail is because they're a bit vague and they can be a bit scary and they can be a bit confusing. So, for example, Shaylin's already told us what the World Health Organization says. Um, and then when you look at the Collins English Dictionary, which we're always told to go and have a look at, it says mental health is the general condition of a person's mind. And if you feel under stress, you feel worried and tense because of difficulties in your life. Anxiety is a feeling of nervousness or worry. That's true. All of that is true. But let's look at what Wikipedia tells us. I'm not even going to attempt to read all of that out because there's so much there, but I'll just give you a moment to read that. What does Wikipedia tell us about stress, anxiety, and mental health? It starts talking about subjective well being, perceived self efficacy, competence, intergenerational dependence, self actualization. Why do you think I'm putting this up here? Does anyone have any ideas why I might be putting this up here? Feel free to either put something in the chat or you can press the space bar and I'm absolutely happy for you to talk out loud as well.
With For me, with the Wikipedia one, there's a lot of words that I don't understand, and it's also showing that it's quite a wide definition.
Absolutely. Um, Andrea, what does that when you read that, what does that make you feel like?
It makes me stressed and anxious just reading it.
I'm glad you said that because this is one of the things. But before I go on, Christine,
Yes,
did you?
Sonal, actually,
Brittany,
do
go
you
on.
mind if I interject?
Absolutely, go for it.
Yeah. So actually, I think it sounds quite positive because there are some really good positive words in there that, you feel competent, that you feel that you're manifesting your real self-actualization. So, when you're in, if you like, positive, good mental health, you're, I would say, happy in a sense. And I think it kind of leads into that as well, unless I've misread it.
No, I think you're right. Um, who was I asking? I was just asking somebody. Christine, did you want to share what your initial thoughts were when you read that? Is Christine still there? Okay, let's go to Kamal. Kamal, are you still there, Kamal?
Both Christian and Kamal are there. They've put some stuff on the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Shall I read it out for you?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So Kamal has said, is stress connected to how we perceive something? So he's asking the question. And Christine has replied, yes.
Okay, thank you for that. So, Gamal, I'll come back to that question as we go through this. So, what I was saying, when you read that, there's a what I would call a mixed bag. So there's a big mixed bag of, oh, there is positivity. I've got autonomy, competence, but then there's also subjective. So for some people, stress and anxiety is just confusing. there's just too much going on. So and so saying this, and somebody's saying do that, and somebody's saying don't worry, get some help, and it'll all be fine, and somebody's saying shh, don't say anything. What will people say? So Wikipedia's kind of got a bit of both in there. So it's kind of telling you it's okay to have mental health issues, whether it's stress or anxiety. It's about the action that comes from it. So it's recognizing it, accepting it, and then the action that comes from it. Okay. So Wikipedia is really cool because it also then starts talking about stress in different categories. So there's the stress, which is the biology, the stress, which is the linguistics, stress, which is mechanics, occupational stress, which we're going to focus on today, psychological stress, and surgical stress. Now, I didn't even know that stress was put down into so many of those different categories, but I do now. Has anyone seen this like this before? That there's these different types of stresses? Um, and Shailene, if you see anything in the chat, please do let me know. So I'll tell you, for example, for mine, surgical stress, I have it all the time. Whenever I have some kind of procedure, I am stressed before, I'm stressed during, and I'm stressed after. Stressed before, what will go wrong? Stressed during, oh my God, is this going to happen okay today? And stress after, because I'm always not able to do what I was able to do before. So that's me. Anyone had anyone had any of the others in their own lives? I think there may be somebody on here that's had occupational stress.
Yep, I've had that.
Go for it, Shailene.
Um, yeah, so it was a few years ago during around the pandemic time. Sorry, not pandemic, the financial crisis. At the bank where I was working in IT had gone through changes, some takeovers and mergers. So lots of cultural change and uncertainty there. Lots of uncertainty with the financial crisis. But also, what was happening was I was doing a role where the skill set I had and the challenges I was facing were greater than what I was able to deal with. And didn't have the support to deal with those, whether it be training or other managerial support, whatever. And I felt overwhelmed and I felt I couldn't face going into work or deal with the work, and sleepless nights, not eating properly, and lots of other symptoms in that manner. So, and I didn't know it was stress at the time until it got diagnosed.
I'm glad it got diagnosed because that way at least you get the help as well. Anyone else? Any of those? The environmental one, the stress biology, the linguistics one, the mechanics. Priti?
Yeah, so I think occupational stress, as one moves along in one's career, I think it's bound to manifest, and then it's just how extreme it is. So for me, I think probably it's happened a few times and I didn't necessarily always recognize it. But yeah, certainly when it affects the body, then you kind of click that, hold on, why are you getting eczema when you've never had eczema before? And that was definitely the body reacting to occupational stress.
Absolutely. Does anyone else want to share anything before I share my story about occupational stress? Is there anything in the chat, Shailene?
Yeah, so Danny and Pretty both in the chat shared occupational stresses, something they've experienced. So that does seem to be a theme coming through.
Definitely. So my occupational stress was very much, I joined the civil service in 1992, a young woman wanting to be ambitious and wanting to rise through the career ladder. And one of the first things I was told within the first couple of weeks was people like you don't go very far. So even before I've even kind of done anything, I'm already being told you're not going to go very far. And it was all to do with the color of my skin and where I'd come from. Because everyone who is in leadership roles was Caucasian, predominantly male, and the occasional female. Anyway, you say something like that to me, you're basically telling me you're challenging me. That's how I take it. So I did. I continued rising through the career ladder, and I went from being an admin officer to an executive officer to a higher executive officer. And then I wanted to go and be an assistant director. And what did I get? You have to wait till you get the tap on the shoulder because people like you don't go very far. So again, I was like, well, hold on, what's this about? And I'm already starting to feel like I don't fit in here. Is it my face? Is it my color? Is it my height? Is it the fact that I don't go to the pub with them after work? Is it that I don't smoke? Is it that, that there are 150 smoking breaks they have during the day? Um, what is it? I couldn't put my finger on it. What was it that was making them behave in that way towards me? Probably guessed it. I got the role of assistant director, and then I thought, right, I'm going to go to deputy director, and I did. I was deputy director at the Home Office, and I thought, right, I've reached my place. It's going to be great. In comes manager, straight from a graduated manager, straight in, and starts working totally on targets. And she's nice to everyone else, and she's absolutely horrible to me every day. Whatever I did, whatever I was wearing, if I picked up a pink pen, it was wrong. It should have been the white and pick pen. If I took 2 minutes extra in the toilet, it was like I was being micromanaged. Remember, I'm a deputy director here at this point. I was being micromanaged, and I had to go for some medical procedure. And her vision was, well, if you can have time off, then you'll just have to use your annual leave. Now, so everything I wanted to do, it was almost like she was just punching into me, literally just trying to push me down, push me down. And then I remember it got so bad that I didn't want to go to work. I was looking for excuses to not go to work. And in fact, it was Danny that said, you need to go and see the doctor. And I went and saw the doctor. The doctor said to me, you're going through depression. And I wouldn't believe him. Me? Depression? I don't go through depression. I'm an extrovert. I smile, whatever's happening in this world. And I just left and I didn't do it, whatever. And I left. And things got worse. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I was starting to recluse myself from things that I normally wouldn't. And I was back at the doctor's. And this time I listened to the doctor. And I got the medication and I took the advice. And I remember Danny was in the car outside. I went outside, I sat in the car, and that manager that I spoke about called me. When are you coming back to work? I said, I've just been signed off for 3 weeks. I'll keep you posted on what's happening. I need to do your annual appraisal. I've just been signed off for 3 weeks. I'll keep you posted on what's going to happen. No, but I need to do your annual I'll call you back. Bye. And put the phone down. So her position was she needs to do the tick box exercises, not can I do anything for you? Can I help you? So don't worry about the workload. We'll pass it. Nothing like that at all. Went home, did what I was supposed to do, did lots of resting, watching in the garden, the birds and the squirrels, and Neo playing with plant pots and various other things that were going on. And it got to the point where I had to go back to work. And I suddenly started not sleeping. I was getting headaches. I was getting stomach aches. I was going through this whole rigmarole of, I really don't want to go back to work. But I knew I had to. I knew I needed to. So I did go back to work. And it was worse than it was before. It was worse because it was suddenly like, because of you, I didn't do the annual appraisal. I got told off that I didn't get my tea. It wasn't like, how are you? Welcome back. There was none of that at all. And in fact, her behavior, then her behavior when my mum passed away, and then her behavior after I had to have a procedure, where I had a choice. Because when I say my stress levels were so high and my anxiety was so high that I had to make a choice between a good job with a 6-figure salary or leave and don't work and then start something new when I'm ready. And I took the decision to leave. And for a year, I didn't work because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what to do. In fact, I would say probably 7 months of that time was spent in recovery. Recovery of various things, recovery from the stress, recovery from the anxiety, recovery from grief. I was grieving. I'd given this organization 20 plus years of my life, and suddenly I was just a number. She's gone, and 3 people came in and did my job. And when I look back on that time, and I think to myself, how did I handle that right? Did I do the right things? There were a lot of things I didn't do right, and in fact, I should have picked up on them earlier. But I was in that place of me get stressed, me depressed. No way. I don't get anxious. I deal with everything. I'm the confidence coach. I'm out there making people feel confident. But even the public speaking confidence coach lost her confidence. I lost me for a moment in time. And it took time out talking with the people that I needed to, whether it was family, whether it was friends, whether it was going through CBT, which is talking therapy, was what actually helped me to come out of it. And then I found out what I wanted to do, did the training, and then launched the business. And why do I share this with you? I share this with you because sometimes you look at a person and you kind of think, oh my God, look at them. They've got everything. They're always so happy. Look at them. They're in the papers. Look at them. They're doing Zoom lives and things. But actually, what's happening behind that face, very few people actually know what is happening. And this is what I wanted to kind of share with you today, the importance of acceptance. Because anyone who's on here, or anyone who's on here and your family and friends and everyone that you know, if anyone is saying, I don't get stressed, then they're not human. If they're saying, I'm never anxious, I don't get anxiety, they're not human. And when you start using words like depression, people run a mile. You know, if you start saying, oh, I'm feeling a bit depressed, people are, oh crap, run. I don't want to get involved. And that's how people are. But actually, we need to be flipping that and actually trying to be in a space where we can help. And that's what a lot I want to talk about today is how can you help yourself, but also how can you help others? Has anyone got anything that they want to share at this point that resonates with what I've just said, or they want to share their story, or you want to put it in the chat?
I'll just say a lot of what you shared experience resonates with me and the journey I've had. Yeah, a lot of that, what you shared resonates with that. And I think what the last bit you shared is the message we've been trying to highlight as well as part of mental health awareness and loneliness and all of these things, that what's going on inside here we can't help just by looking at someone's face. And that's why, you know, that whole aspect of connection is so important, and to just ask someone, you know, how are you? How are you really? And checking in and connecting and seeing that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else want to share anything or put anything in the chat? Otherwise, I will move on. So the next exercise, I almost scrolled into it, but then I stopped. So what I'd like you all to do, use the chat facility, or if you want to talk about it, use the space bar and talk. I'd like you to just put in the chat, what do you think stresses people out or stresses you out? What do you think are the stress factors? And I'm going into the chat so I can actually see what everyone is going to write. time management, not enough time to do all the things. Too much on plate. Yep. That kawan. Unexpected events.
How about uncertainty?
Definitely uncertainty.
Yeah, and I think in the work context, it's where you're perhaps trying to assist somebody, but if you're uncertain yourself, then that's quite a major stress, because obviously other people are relying upon you. And if you don't have the support either from colleagues or a wider network, then the stress is going to be even greater.
Absolutely. Lee said unemployment, finance, illness, other people, expectations, judgments, asked to do too much than you have been trained for, trying to juggle life on my own after losing my husband in 2020, being a single parent. Yes, definitely Anupa. Kids, car, boyfriend, family, husband, people. Yep, totally agree with you, Serena. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. So just going to scroll down here. So these are the signs of stress. Okay, how you might feel. So these are the things that you might find when you're at work. Let's just say, or at home, for the purpose of today's session, at work and at home. This is how you might feel. You might be anxious, afraid, angry, aggressive, sad, irritable, frustrated, depressed. How might your body react? Headaches, nausea, indigestion, digestive problems, constipation, bloating, diarrhea, shallow breathing, hyperventilating, sweating, heart palpitations, aches and pains. And then how might you behave? You'll withdraw from other people, or you'll snap at them. You'll be indecisive, or you'll be inflexible. You'll be tearful. You'll have problems getting to sleep or even staying asleep. You might experience sexual problems. So you might smoke, you might drink alcohol, you might take drugs, or if you do them already, you might take them more than usual. So the reason I say I'm highlighting all of this is because how you might react because of what has happened affects how you're going to behave. Now imagine if you start behaving in the indecisive, inflexible, withdraw from people, don't sleep, and you smoke a lot, drink a lot, all of that happens. How do you think that's going to affect you in your workplace? Just take a moment to think about that. How do you think that's going to affect you in your workplace? Whether you're in a managerial position, a leadership position, or you're an employee, or you're self-employed, it's not going to be good, is probably the bottom line. It's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, you're going to struggle. And you might find that if you've got friends, colleagues at work, they're going to be kind of looking at you and wondering what the hell's happened to you. Brithy says it's going to worsen your effectiveness. Millie has said you can't focus. Absolutely. Harshna says you make wrong decisions. Definitely. Because you're not focused, you'll make wrong decisions. Anyone else? Okay. So, and if your stress is long lasting, i.e., you don't go and get help, you will notice your sleep, your memory, and your eating habits change. And when you start getting into that place, especially in the workplace, if you don't get help, you'll possibly find yourself going down particular work procedures that you don't want to go down. And so this is why I flag this. It's so important. As soon as you start feeling any of these, anxious, afraid, angry, aggressive, sad, irritable, frustrated, depressed, and you start reacting in any of these ways, highlighted here, meaning this becomes you, get help. It's important to get help. Okay, let's move on to anxiety. So,
Sorry,
go on.
can I with what you highlighted there, the other important aspect is if you recognize and see that in anyone else, any shifts or changes, then that's the things to be aware of, and then checking in and support. So it's awareness for yourself, but also awareness for people around you.
Definitely, definitely. And then anxiety, it's another thing that people sort of feel, oh, I don't get anxious. Why don't anxiety? Anxiety won't come and knock on my door. It's going to go to Britney's door and Andrea's door, but it's not going to come to Sonal's door. Of course it is. Through our journey in life, anxiety is going to pop its head up in various forms that you would not even realize could have happened to you. And it's actually normal to feel anxious sometimes. And in fact, sometimes feeling anxious helps you to actually do a bit better with what you were planning to do. But it can not be a good thing when you're feeling anxious because you're feeling pressured, stressed, threatened in those kind of negative scenarios. So anxiety can affect both your body and mind. And how can it affect your mind? You can have a feeling of dread or fearing the worst, feeling edge or panicky, difficulty concentrating, irritability, feeling detached from yourself or the world around you. Have you noticed the slight differences between when you're feeling anxious and when you're feeling stressed? Slight difference there. And then the physical feelings that you can get: restlessness, feeling dizzy, lightheaded, wobbly legs, pins and needles, shortness of breath, hyperventilating, the heart palpitations, nausea, needing the toilet more or less often, sweating, sleep problems, panic attacks. Now, sometimes these physical responses, you might start thinking, oh, well, I'm asthmatic, so it must be that. Or I'm diabetic, so it must be that. Or it could be, yeah, I've just done a workout. That's probably why I'm sweating a lot. So sometimes your reasoning cannot necessarily align with what's generally happening. And this is the same if you're at work and it's happening to you. And as Shailene said earlier, it's happening to a colleague of yours. Okay. So what are the resources that can help you at work and at home? So there's the GP, self-help resources. And the GP can not only help you with medication to help you with what's happening to you at that time, but they can also refer you. And there's also the NHS Inform site, NHS Inform, and it has an online anxiety self-help guide that can help you through. So it's useful to know this because it might be you, but it might be a colleague at work that needs this support and advice. So if you know this, you can share it with them. There's something called talking therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's where you go and talk to somebody that doesn't know you, doesn't know your family, your friend circle. They're independent, and you just share honestly what's happening. And they're trained to actually help get out of you really what is bothering you, whether it's because of work or whether it's because of something else. Medication, I've already spoken about. And then I'll skip past that. This is where we get to the work point on how you can support others. Really important, this first one. If you're at work and somebody just needs you to listen to them without making any judgments, because what you're hearing is a small part of the big picture. So at that time, just listen and concentrate on their immediate needs. So if they've fallen again or they've had a dizzy spell again, just be there, listen, and note it down. Don't decide for them what they need. Ask them what would help them. How can I help you? What would you need? Is it a glass of water? Don't say, do you need a glass of water? Make it open questions. Be reassuring. I'm here for you. Don't worry, I'm here for you. If appropriate, signposting them to practical information. It might be that they need a more intensive place to talk to somebody, Samaritans, Mind, those kind of charities. Avoid confrontation. For example, let's just say they suddenly said, I'm so nervous. We're meeting all the parents tonight and we're going to tell them that we're gay. Oh my God, what do you mean you're gay? Oh no, da, da, da. No, avoid any kind of confrontation. It's about being supportive to them in the work environment. Asking if you can contact someone for them. They may have someone that they've already spoken to about this. And if they have, then it's great that they can be contacted. Encourage them. Don't be confrontational, don't be argumentative, don't make judgments, encourage them. And when we say providing first aid, it could be a mental health first aider. So a lot of organizations should now have mental health first aiders. And it could be that that's the person that you need to call to help them. So you explain to them what's happened and then you step back and you let the mental first aider take control. But how do you support yourself at work? So you kind of flip the coin. So you now need to speak to someone who will listen without making any judgments. You need to concentrate on your immediate needs. There's times to be selfish. And if you're starting to feel stressed and anxious, it's okay to be selfish and focus on your needs for that moment in time. Because if you don't, it just excels, and then explodes. Don't try to resolve everything at the same time and tell others what you're feeling, hearing, and seeing. Don't bottle it up. Seek help, whether it's from a crisis team, your GP, a referral, NHS. And a really good thing that I've found has worked for me and for some of the people I've worked with is that we write things down, we read them out, and then we either see if that helps with the emotions or we shred it. It's happened, we've written it down, we've talked about it, and we shred it. So there are a few different ways. And then here are some tips on having these difficult conversations, whether you're the listener at work or whether you're the person sharing. So if somebody you see at work is stressed and anxious, don't have a conversation with them in an open environment. Find a quiet space where no one else can hear or interrupt and they feel safe. Thank them for coming forward to talk to you about their problem. And give them time. Don't, oh, I've only got 10 minutes, so could you hurry up, please? Because I've got a meet. Make sure you give them time to talk about what it is they want to talk to. Let them explain their issues so that you can actually properly listen and focus on what help they may be asking you for. Be open-minded, don't be judgmental. Be aware that they might tell you something a bit shocking, and don't, oh my God, just listen. Shock inside, don't shock outside. There's an art to that. I'll teach you all another day. And if you can find out anything that's the root cause of the problem, then that may be a way for you to be very directional on where they should go next. And then if you think, actually, we need more time to talk about this, then just book in more time with them. Just say to them, how do you feel about continuing this conversation after work, over lunchtime? So these are really key points when you are the person that's going to be listening. And if you're the sharer, because you yourself are going through it, just flip all of that I've just said to you and have it in place for yourself. I will share this with Shailin, so if he wants to share this out, please do. And just very quickly, some tips on active listening, which is so important, especially for handling sensitive conversations when somebody's starting to tell you about they're feeling stressed or they're anxious or something's just not right. Watch the person's body language. Does it support what they're saying? Oh, I'm fine. No, there's absolutely nothing wrong. And they're pulling their hair out or their body's really tense. Those are signs that something's going on. So you need to probe a little better with open questions. Don't interrupt them. So I just wanted to tell you, oh, well, hold on, let me just check what the time is. Let them have that conversation. Don't interrupt. We've talked about the don't judge. Don't decide what they're going to say next. So, Shailene, I wanted to talk to you about, oh, yeah, you wanted to talk to me about, don't interrupt. Let them finish what they're going to say. And don't force your opinions on the individual. These are all active listening cues and tips. It's about actively listening to what that individual has to say. And then when they finish, you can always say, is there anything else you want to share? And if they say, no, that's everything, you can just summarize. So I just want to check I've understood what you've said to me. And then you summarize, and then you make an action plan of what's going to happen next. And then finally, your mental health first aiders, mental health champions, internal counselors, human resources, and then external to the workplace, GP, NHS, mental health charities, the WHO, ACAS, Public Health England, HSC, Priory Group, and the Mental Health Organisation webpage. My main advice to you all is don't live in silence and reach out for support. And I know Shailene's going to share my blog with you as well. So, going to close that. And then there's just one thing I want to do is, here we go. And hoping this will resonate with some of you. And it's a case study on stress. So I'm not going to read this out to you. I'm going to just ask you to read through it. And then I'm going to ask for your thoughts on this. And when you need me to scroll up, please just let me scroll. Just tell me. And as you're feeling any thoughts, please just put it in the chat. And when you've got to the end, I'd just like you to either share your thoughts in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute and share your thoughts, you can do that as well.
So I think one of the things I've taken away from that example is her various personal situations were the triggers upon which she was having physical physical symptoms of pain and anxiety. Well, she thought heart attack, so it manifested as physical, where in conclusion, after they did the test, it was more internal and mental as opposed to physical. The mental was causing the physical.
Absolutely. Brittany, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was thinking that she needed a third party perspective on it to really get to the root of the problem. So thinking that you can solve it yourself, she's tried to self-diagnose and failed every single time. And yet it caused her more anxiety every time she was told something different. But that third part, being open to a third party perspective, eventually helped her.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, absolutely. And what often happens is people don't want to hear, they don't want to be told that actually it's you, it's how you're living your life, it's what you're putting into your body, it's your late nights, it's your boyfriend, it's your family, it's all the your that's actually having the impact on you as an individual, that then is causing you the anxiety and stress, which is then manifesting in those physical ways. um, Thank you. Kamal's put lifestyle, food, and relationships have an impact on stress. Absolutely. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we don't get taught this as we grow up. In I don't think in any of the different cultures around the world, you don't grow up and have a conversation with your family when you're young about your lifestyle is going to affect your stress. If you study too hard, you're going to get headaches and feel anxious. If you don't become a doctor, or all those other things that we all hear, but they all, every time somebody is forcing their thoughts, their visions, their version of life onto somebody else, you're actually just kind of handing over a bucket of stress, um, or a bucket of anxiety to that person. And then what's interesting in this particular case study is that she was a young woman, and the whole boyfriend, family, alcohol, drugs, everything was having such a big impact on her work environment that she actually didn't know how to deal with the work environment because she hadn't accepted what was happening to her in her main life. I hope that makes sense. Um, is there anyone else that wants to add anything in to that in the chat? Okay, I've got one more and then I'm going to hand back to Shaylin. Just move some of these screens. Right, so let's do this one. Okay, so there's this one. So this one is workplace stress almost ruined my career case study. So this is about Poppy Castle. So I will let you have a little read. Tell me if I'm going too fast. And again, once you get to the bottom, feel free to share your thoughts in the chat, or you can unmute and share openly.
I think one of the things that this one highlights, but I think the other case study and my experience in general, and I think listening to yours as well, is it's like the buses, when they come along, they come along in threes. So it's, one thing on top of another, on top of another, of, bad news or things to handle. And that is what I think causes the stress, where what you're trying to deal with is greater than what you can cope with at that moment in time.
Absolutely, totally agree. Prithi?
It actually made me think of a client of mine.
I was just thinking I should have passed this client to you.
So she was doing really well at work, CEO, and her husband came home one day and said he wanted a divorce, and it completely threw her. She became a single parent, had a daughter, so the whole childcare issues. And in her case, within 2 weeks of her husband leaving the family home because he wanted to separate and divorce, her brother committed suicide. And I mean, you can imagine everything had just imploded. And she actually was a CEO of a suicide prevention charity. So she felt she just couldn't deal with it, and ended up resigning. So resigned, separated, household expenses, and grief, everything.
It's so interesting you bring that up, Prithi, because often grief in its different manifestations and visuals, however you want to look at grief, is it a box, is it is it diagonal, is it hexagonal, what does it look like? It comes in so many forms, doesn't it? And that grief then can become anxiety, which can then become stress. And then if you don't handle it at the grief point, it then just becomes worse and worse. And then you do get to a point where you just do not know how to manage it or handle it.
I think one of the things that she's still a client of mine, probably about 7-8 years on, and has really turned her life around. But I think one of the things that I noticed that she did is handling, sort of separating the problems out and handling a problem
one at a time,
and feeling progress, then being able to tackle another problem, and perhaps even getting the support she needed for each problem.
Yeah,
I think that was one of her big kind of, if you like, light bulb moments, turning points in order to get back into the swing of life again.
Yeah. And I think what happens is, again, because you're not taught how to manage stress and anxiety and grief. It's not in the school syllabus or in the workplace learning and developmental program. So you don't know how to deal with it. So what happens is you've got a basket and everything just drops into this basket, and then it just sits in this basket, and it just festers and festers, and until somebody comes along and goes, well, let's look at this part. What's happening here? And we go through a journey, and you get to a point and you go, okay, I'm okay with that, let's look at this part. And this doesn't happen. And so what then happens is, whatever's happening in your work, in your home, in your community, in your friend circle, it will automatically affect you at work, regardless of how strong, confident you are. It will work its little way into your behaviors, your work, your actual work that you do, the work that you produce, your decision making. So it's so important, whether it's, if you're starting to feel any of those signs of, anxious, headaches, not sleeping, not eating, overly worrying, that you immediately look for support. Now, it doesn't always have to be your doctor or a specialist or CBT. It could be a good friend that you can just offload to, and just by offloading you actually feel, whew, I actually feel a bit better. I just told Brittany all my crap that happened today, and yeah, I feel a bit better. And sometimes it could be that I do all that with Brittany, and then Brittany says, actually, Sonal, I think you should probably go and seek some medical advice. But you're talking to somebody you trust, who's then going to actively listen, and then either help you to close it down so it's no longer an issue, or to direct you where to go. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone here else wants to share? Hina, thank you for joining us. Bhavini as well, thank you for joining us. Do either of you want to share anything about what we are talking about, either about the case study, or it could be a personal, or not personal if you don't want to, an example that you know of? Kamal as well. Okay, that's fine. I don't want to force anyone to say anything. So I hope by going through those, let me come out of there, stop share. There we go. So what I'm hoping, by having gone through the theory and the science, and then a little bit about practicalities, and then those two case studies, what I'm hoping that you've all got from this is that we all have mental health. We will all get stressed on minutiae levels to volcano levels. We will all have anxiety through our journey of life. What is important is knowing how to manage it. But to manage it, you need to accept that it's happening. And it's that acceptance that is the hard part, because if you don't accept it, it will show its way into your life, whether it's your personal life, your work life, your friend circle, and then you will find that actually you want to detach. And we want to get in there before you get to that stage. So, I remember there was a question earlier in the chat. I think it was Kamal. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Is it Gamal? Oh, here we go. Is stress connected to how we perceive something? Was your question, and that's a really good question, Gamal. Yes, it is. Because I might see something, or I might perceive, let's just say, let's use your word, I might perceive that what Shailene is doing something, and I might perceive that what Shailene is doing is wrong. But I don't actually know why Shailene's doing it, what's his thinking behind what he's doing. So actually, I'm getting stressed over something that I don't actually know about. So the answer would be, yo, Shailene, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What's making you feel like you need to do it? Did somebody ask you to do it? Then you can decide if you want to stress or not. So often, stress comes from us making a decision or going through a thinking process that actually isn't real. So we cause our own stress. And often that can come from places of upbringing, what's happened in your family as you've been growing up, your experiences through your life, And it can also come through prejudices. And I use that word quite strongly because sometimes your own prejudices can make you stressed out over things that you shouldn't really be stressing out over. Okay. Um, that's it from me. So I'm gonna, oh, there's a new message. Just let's check what that new message is. Many thanks. Oh, thank you. Come on, you're welcome. So I'm now going to hand you back to Shailin. If anyone's got any questions, again, feel free to just ask or put it in the chat. And whilst we're here, we'll make sure that one of us will answer it. I'll hand you back to Shailin.
Great. No, thank you, Sonal, for that actually very in-depth sharing, covering a variety of things, and there's a lot packaged into the various realms. And I think the case studies help, and your own personal experience help to shine a light on these. So thank you for that. So what we will do is we will open up for Q&A again in a moment. There's a couple of things I just want to share with everyone related to this, which connects in, and then we will open up for the Q&A on that. So just a few more minutes of sharing that. So, oh, one sec, sorry. I just need to try that. Yeah, that's it. Can you all see the screen okay? Yeah. So on the screen is the Happy Life Habits website, and underneath blog is the latest blog articles, which is all to do with the Mental Health Awareness Week and the theme of loneliness. And within this blog article are various resources. And one of those resources is the video recordings of the last two sessions. Today's session will be added into that. But I just wanted to show you a couple of things on here. So this is a nice little graphic which just shows that there are physical aspects to mental health. So that's a nice little graphic there. There's a few definitions and examples of snippets from blogs. There's some great TED Talks and other videos on loneliness, which I found, which I thought are really beneficial. So that's all been collected into there. This was the Robert Waldinger TED Talk I mentioned yesterday, where it's saying that, our social connections are the most important thing for our well-being and longevity. Links to all the organizations and people who are supporting this Mental Health Awareness Week endeavor. So Sonal's is here, and all the other ones who've taken part and supported are there. And the various posters for each of the events which are happening. So underneath today's poster, Sonal's one, here is the link to Sonal's website and to her article on mental health and anxiety, which captures some of what's been shared here, as well as a few other parts there. And then tomorrow's event is there where you can log in, and here are the videos from this week. But this is what I wanted to draw your attention to, of these two things. Sorry. There's a self-care poster there, which you can print off and look at, and it captures various things we can do to help our self-care, help our mental health, and help our overall well-being. But here is a series of 7 short videos, about 10 minutes each. There's an intro one, and then there's one on what is mental health. But this is the one I want to draw your attention to and just play for you now. And it's day 2, which is on stress. So each of those videos is sharing my experience of some form of mental health, whether it's stress, thinking, overthinking, worry, loneliness, and depression, and things that can do with it. And there's quotes and stories shared. But this is the video that I wanted to share for today. And I'm just going to open it up. Hi there, and welcome to day 2 of this video series on. Just want to check, can you hear that okay? Okay.
Hi there, and welcome to day 2 of this video series on mental health. My name is Sonal Dave. I'm a happiness coach with Happy Life Habits, positively impacting people's happiness and well-being levels. So day 2 is looking at the impact of stress on our mental health and our overall health. In the day 1 video, we mentioned that the World Health Organization shares the definition of what mental health is, and one aspect of it was to be able to cope with the normal stresses of life. And another definition was the one that Mind had shared about handle stress and make choices. So these are important aspects where to live our day-to-day lives, we need to be able to do these things. And stress is something that can impact us. Stress, when it does impact us, can impact all 4 dimensions, not just the mental and the emotional, but also our physical and our spiritual. It can have an impact across all of those. Stress is an interesting one, and it's one which I have personally suffered with at a point in my life. It was during 2008 to 2010, working in financial services. It was part of it was during the financial crisis, but also a lot of it was where the demands that were being asked of me were greater than what I could meet. It was in the work environment, the role I was playing or doing what I needed to do for it. I didn't have the correct skill set or the training or the support in order to do that. So it had an impact on me where I wasn't eating sensibly, I was working very late, getting up very early, it impacting not being able to do exercise, not being able to think, and having this constant worry that I have to deal with all of these things and deal with them, and if I don't deal with them, I'm going to fail, and it's going to impact my career and all of these things. It was also where you're feeling you just got too many things to deal with and you don't know what to start with, what to deal with. So too much on your plate. And it got to a point where it became too much, and I needed to take time out from that environment and see the doctor and get signed off with stress. I'll share more about that story on the Saturday live session that we had as part of this series, and go into a bit more detail regarding that. But as I was saying, it was impacting my health, my sleep, it was impacting my social connections, not going out so often, getting more withdrawn, feeling a bit more isolated, and not having that sense of no hope, and not seeing a way out, and not being able to focus or concentrate. So lots of demands coming in. Now, what I often share in the workshops that I do is it's like, when you consider this bottle of water, it's got 500 mils in there. Holding it for 1 minute, it's not a problem. Holding it for 5 minutes, not a problem. Maybe we can even hold it for an hour, not a problem. If you were trying to hold it for a whole day or a few days without putting it down, what we will find is our arms will ache, and perhaps we'll get chronic pain and we will suffer. The water hasn't changed, but us holding it is the issue. So if you consider the water to represent our stress, our worries, our concerns, that hasn't changed. But what it is it's holding on to it, the duration. That's the problem. So what we've got to learn to do is now and then put the bottle down. Take a breather, take a change, re-energize, refocus, and look after ourselves before we pick up the bottle. So that is an important part of stress, or dealing with stress. Stress in itself is not a bad thing. It's our evolutionary response to when we feel threatened, and it pumps adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormones into our system to get our body ready to fight, flight, or freeze. So it's there to help survive, help us survive. The problem is when we get too many of these stresses coming in, and we're not dissipating the hormones, the stress hormones, and we're holding on to it for a long time. That is the problem. Stress can drive us, and a quote I'd like to share is, our growth is on the border of stress and challenge. Sorry, the quote is, our growth is on the border of support and challenge. Challenge is the stress, or can be the stress, and if the challenge is too big and we don't have enough support, we don't grow and we fall over or we break. So where the right challenge is there for our abilities and our skills and so forth, and we have the right support, whether it's people or training or or attitude, then we're able to grow and deal with that. And stress is one where we're stepping out of our comfort zone. That's why we feel it. Sean Acker, one of the researchers in the Science of Happiness, has shared that our brain on positive is 31% more productive than when negative, neutral, or stressed. So the challenge for you today is, like on the day one, make a video call, connect with someone. But with this one, the additional thing I'd like you to do is go outside, go for a walk, get some fresh air, do some exercise. That helps to put the bottle down. And while you're doing that walk, take the opportunity to do the video call to someone and just connect with them and share perhaps what you've learned in this session, but also ask them how they are doing. If you are really suffering with poor mental health or challenges, please do seek out professional help from the Samaritans or the websites of Mind, the government, and NHS, which have got details on support services for mental health. And I look forward to seeing you on day 3, which is about thinking, overthinking, not thinking, all of these things which contribute to the challenges of mental health. And if you've liked this video, please subscribe.
So that was one of the videos there, and there is that action for you guys if you're up for it to go with. And I'm just going to wrap up with the slides once again. So whizzing through this, you've heard the stress story. The things that helped me to put the bottle down was time out, so the GP signing me off from work, and then focusing on various things like breathing, like reflection, exercise, swimming, walking, being mindful, all those kind of things helped. And really, thinking about what's important to me, reevaluating my skills, abilities, and knowledge, because those got knocked, self-esteem, and volunteering and talking with people. So those are the things which helped to alleviate and overcome those things. So ways to increase our happiness or deal with stress. So mindfulness, kindness, and gratitude are 3 things that are practices we can do. And all 3 of these, if you look at this in orange, are things which help reduce stress. And so practice of mindfulness, awareness helps us reduce stress. Acts of kindness help reduce stress and build our immune system stronger. And journaling and gratitude practice helps reduce stress. So all of these things are the things which can help reduce the stress and flood us with the happier chemicals. And so those are the things, of happy life habits you want to develop and imbibe. And in doing so, I've shared this during this week, 8 million people on the planet. So why does loneliness exist? It shouldn't with 8 million people on the planet. And the solution here is, and this is us being part of the solution as well as the problem, we do our little bit of being friendlier, kinder, aware, and more connected. So mindfulness, kindness, gratitude, and general helping to be connected. And all it takes is a smile, a hello, and then a how are you. So that is what we can do to help others feel less lonely, but also with what I just shared, reduce the stress for ourselves. So that's one of the key takeaways. And yep, that's already been shared. And so I will call it a stop there. And the stories regarding the remaining of the amazing corn I will share tomorrow. So if you want to know about the amazing corn, I invite you to join us tomorrow. So we've got a couple of minutes. If you do have any questions, reflections, or anything you'd like to share, you can ask Sonal, you can ask myself, or you can just ask or comment anything you'd like to share for a couple of minutes, and then we will wrap up the session.
So I'd just like to start by saying thank you to everyone for joining, but also for taking part, because sometimes when it's a topic like stress, anxiety, mental health, it can be quite difficult to get people to take part and engage. So I just want to say thank you for actually being part of it and interacting as well. It just makes it, hopefully, it means that more of us will be able to feel confident to go away and talk about it afterwards as well. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to you all for joining.
Absolutely, but also thank you to you, Sonal, for your wholehearted honest sharing of your experiences, as well as the tips and suggestions on what we can do to be aware of these things and how we can deal with them. So much appreciated that you're part of this Mental Health Awareness Week. So
You're welcome.
it's pretty appreciative of that. So I can't see anything in the chat, and I can't see anyone raising their hands. If you would like to even just consider what's one of your key takeaways from today, that'd be great. And if you want to share, perfect. If not, at least think about it and consider what is one of your key takeaways from today, and one thing that you may choose to put into play.
Sorry, Sona.
Yes.
Hi. I was just wondering, from what you were just saying about your situation at work, could you not have spoken to anybody like the HR, or if you're kind of being, well, I would put it as bullied by the boss.
Yep, absolutely. I was being harassment and bullying was going on.
Yeah. So could there have been a procedure that you could have taken, or was it a case of also fear of, like speaking out sometimes?
So in my situation, I did actually try to follow the right procedure. The problem I had was the people that were in the leadership positions in the HR procedure were very similar in terms of personality, characteristics, and Caucasian. So it just meant that even though I was trying to follow the procedure in the correct way, the procedural rule book wasn't being supportive of my position. So, for example, when I said to them, look, because of my disability, I can't just sit in the flimsy chairs that we've all got, they were like, well, that's all you got to do. But I knew there was a procedure that they needed to follow through access to work and occupational therapy. And it was almost like every time I raised something, there was like a block put in. And in fact, my scenario where I didn't go so far into it was I actually had to go to the union. And it was the union lady, Jennifer, lovely lady, black young lady, colour like me, who was able to understand what was happening to me, what I was going through, why the hell was certain procedures not being followed in the way that they should do. So it was almost like I'd exhausted all the opportunities that could have helped me to stay on. And then I think it got to the point as well, Harshna, where I actually saw people who were just bypassing me and becoming directors, and they were Caucasian, and they had not been in the organization as long as I had, and various other things. And I just thought, you know what, I've hit my ceiling. This is actually not good for my health, so I need to make a choice. And that was the discussion with Danny, and we made the choice that actually for my sanity and my health, I had to get out. And I think if I'd stayed, I would have definitely had a breakdown. I could feel I was going in that place where I was actually would have had a mental breakdown. Thank you for
Thank you.
asking. No,
No,
thank you
thank you
for
for
asking.
sharing. I was just wondering.
No, absolutely. And it's important that, if that anyone has questions like that, because I'm always conscious of time when I'm doing these, it's like share enough to make sure that I still have more time with you going through case studies and the science and the theory. But yeah, there were processes and I tried them and they just did not work for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to kind of come in on what you said, Sonal, because actually even those processes are really stressful.
Yes.
I've been close to somebody who's tried those processes. And in fact, as a family, we kind of wanted to say to them, you know what, just step back. It's not worth it, because actually the process itself and what they're putting you under in that process is manifesting in physical ill health and obviously mental ill health. And it's not only affecting you, it's affecting your family, your kids, etc. And it's really a tough call for anybody, because on the one hand, we do want to fight, but on the other hand, it's hard actually. So well done for you for trying, but I also none of it is easy. None of it is easy.
In fact, it was an occupational health report, a guy that I was brought in to do an occupational health report. And I think HR had thought he was going to come in and write a report that was going to support them, not me. And his report actually said, if you don't let her go, this is going to end up in court. And it was that was the trigger for them to realize that actually, if they wanted to end up in court, they needed to continue their behaviors, or they needed to have an actual discussion with me so that I could leave in a way that was not going to put them and me in court and in the news. Because think about it, I was a young Asian woman with a disability at a senior level being bullied and harassed. And I was brown. Let's just throw that out. And I was 4'9", so let's just put in a bit of heightism in there as well. So there was a lot that was just going against me, and I have to be honest, I went through a process of grief. I was grieving my mum. I was grieving the work. I was just grieving. I thought I was going to be a director and did all of that. So it is hard. And it's hard as well, I think, because everyone sees Sonal as this very happy, smiley, out there in the event space, and I am, but I'm also human. And that's a really important thing that if I haven't said already, I'm going to say now. We're all human. And because we're all human, anxiety, stress, grief, emotional, mental, physical pain is going to come our way in some form. Thank you for sharing, Brittany.
Yeah, thanks.
Was there anyone else that feeling like they would be happy to share? Just wondering if there's anyone here that or is everyone being shy?
What I'll do is I'll stop the recording and
Okay.
give an opportunity if anyone wants to share on the back of that. And just before stopping the recording, our last session is tomorrow. So please do join us for suicide prevention. Again, another really important topic. And I really do hope that you can join us. And please bring a friend or a family member or a colleague to join us with that last session. Thank you again, Sonal, and thank you for the audience for being here and supporting us with this project. See you all soon.